first time meeting with customers or at a trade show, and somebody say, "Oh yeah, I just Bluebeamed it." Like, "You Bluebeamed it? What?"
Ah, yeah.
And so that was a moment, definitely. I left the premier space agency in the world to go sell dog food online. I'll just never forget going and just meeting the people and really learning like, wow, there is a shift going on here. In LA, the earth is shaking, earthquake, we are in the middle of a fundamental tectonic shift with technology in the industry. Like the internet of, 98, 99, we are living that today. And
Yeah.
AI has been around forever, but what's different is it's this combination of all the supporting technologies in the industry that now we can really get this into our customers' hands.
Hey everyone, and welcome to the Bricks and Bytes podcast, where we dive into construction and AEC technology. Before we get started though, if you're a startup founder or operator responsible for innovation in your company, or you want a deeper, more insightful look into technology in AEC, you won't want to miss our newsletter. From deep dives into particular technologies such as AI, robotics, design, software, and so on. Hot takes from investors betting big in AEC technology, and advice on building tech companies, including the stories and takeaways of the most successful AEC technology founders. Head over to www.bricks-bytes.com and sign up today to get this exclusive material straight to your inbox. And now for the episode.
Okay, so I was in this bar in Boston in November 2025. So yes, that's last year now. This is early January 2026 that we were doing this episode. And I was having a chat to a few people, and this lady come up to me and she grabbed me and said, "There's someone over there you need to speak to." And I thought, okay. And like it happened so quickly that, and I was looking at this lady and I was thinking, I recognize you. Where do I know you from? But the speed at which it happened, I was like unable to process what was going on. But anyway, she pulled me over to these two people standing at the bar. One of them was dressed in like a blazer and had like a flowery shirt on, and was like sitting there. And I was trying to work out, as you do when you approach people, who these people might be that I'm about to be introduced. And then there was another one standing there, and she said, "Owen, this is the founder from Bluebeam, Don. You need to speak to him. You need to get him on Bricks and Bytes." And so, Don, here we are today, and as part of that discussion that we had back in November, we managed to agree and arrange to do this. And by the way, that person, the mysterious lady that grabbed me to pull me over to introduce me to you, was Tanya from Nemechek.
Yep.
And Tanya is a huge fan of Bricks and Bytes, and I hope she appreciates this little story. And I'm sure she will be listening to this episode in some capacity. Thank you, Tanya, for making this happen.
Great. Yeah, Tanya's awesome. We've worked closely over the last few years since she's been part of Nemechek. It's been just a great energy to have in Nemechek and Bluebeam. So
Yeah, and for people that don't understand why someone from Nemechek might be introducing me to Bluebeam, I'm sure most people that listen to this podcast will know the reason why. But obviously, Nemechek acquired Don, the company you co-founded Bluebeam back in 2018,
no, 2014.
2014, and it was one of the most legendary products, Bluebeam, which, by the way, comes up in, I don't know, a lot of conversations I have with people in the industry. Bluebeam is just such a legendary name. So you built some kind of like, what's the word? Cult, not cult, but memorable kind of product.
In engaged audience, I would like to say, and really, yeah, and I think that again, I think definitely get into it, but I think that connection with our customers, the industry, it's been just an amazing experience to go through. Here we are, year 24 of this thing called Bluebeam, and every year, every day, every month, I'm just so inspired by the interactions with our customers, with the great team that we've been able to build, and our colleagues and partners, and it's just been an amazing experience to be part of, and I'm just every day thankful. So it's we were talking before about just kind of coming back from the the holiday break and really having the time to reflect. And it's just, I always just feel this immense gratitude for the space we're in, the industry, the where we're at in the history and the evolution in the industry. I think there's just so much opportunity. It's really an exciting time to be alive and for us to be here. So
Yeah, very cool. Lots of things happen, and we'll get into that detail before in this podcast. Don, I'm curious. So, why do you think that Bluebeam is like so famous within the industry? Like, why did it have such legendary status?
it's so as part of a team, it wasn't just me that absolutely it was a few of us that were involved in starting it, and I think it's really always been just I think keeping our North Star focused on the problem of, how do you get projects done better? How do you share information, vital, complex, dynamically changing information in a way that you can get projects built? You know, it's easy to say, hard to execute on, but I think just nose to the grindstone, year over year, really being close with the customers, making some bets on, oh, here's some, I think this is where we can, lead the industry forward without losing the focus on this is all about, it ain't about the technology. I love talking about technology guy, but at the end of the day, it's about delivering the projects and really deeply understanding that. And so I think it's just been part of our core DNA. And I just think that our customers, I think, have and users over the years have sensed that, and we've, I think, kind of earned a bit of uh, uh, to be in the company, to be in the mind share of these people trying to get their projects done. They don't want last thing they want to have to do is think about the freaking software and how they're using it. We got to deal with this issue out the site or with the design, whatever that is, and we're just that natural enabler for that. And so I think that has kind of helped kind of this let's serve what you're trying to do and not but let's talk about the technology here and there. So it's it's hard to really pin down, but I think it's just a year over year earning that right and delivering on it is kind of my hypothesis for that.
Yeah, so deep rooted focus on the problems that people are facing,
Yep.
and a
Well,
continuous.
yeah. Sorry to cut you off. And I just think one other thing I was thinking too is that another big part of it was we we didn't hide from our customers and users. Like when, the phone rang, we picked up. I mean, okay, now let's go back, to circa 2002 and, you know, being ready, no matter what, to respond to an email, get out to, a site, whether, architecture office out in the field, wherever it is, um, and just willing to engage. And it's like, it's really understand. I think that accessibility is really what I think kind of really set the tone of Bluebeam at trade shows. Excited to engage with people, and they're in many ways like friends. You talk to them and interact, and I think that just kind of built up this this relationship with the industry, our customers. And I think that kind of probably went a long way to that.
I actually think on the point of like why Bluebeam was such a legendary product, or still is a legendary product. I'm going to say something like a little bit different here, but I think the name is like super has a super viral kind of
Mm,
spin on it. Like Bluebeam rolls really nicely off the tongue. I think the fact that like the branding and the logo is blue, like white and blue,
mm,
and people associate blue and it just sticks in their head. Um, so I think they're like maybe that's something that you haven't thought about. Maybe you have thought about before, but as someone like who's his doesn't actually really use the product but sees it from that in that respect, I think that that's something that like maybe had like an impact which is unmeasurable, but obviously
yeah.
now and with Bluebeam being what it is, had quite an impact.
Oh. Yeah, and just blue, a lot of people say, "Oh, yeah, Bluebeam name." You always want to kind of have lower in the alphabet. B, Bluebeam one, but blue. The idea of blueprints, and I think that really back in the day, I think it was evocative of that, kind of brought that in, and then beam, kind of that structural steel, like the two kind of coming together. I think it really, it's oddly different enough that it kind of, you hear blue beam, and but then also hearing, it's so funny. I mean, the first time, you know, be in customers, or meeting with customers or at trade shows, and they say, "Oh yeah, that's blue beamed it." Like, you blue beamed it. Oh,
Ah, yeah.
and so that was a moment, definitely. But I think, it's different enough, unique enough, and it evokes, yeah, just how do we easily be able to, share this project info? Like, it really, it kind of gave a way to kind of identify that process of getting those, designs ready for construction. And it really kind of, I think we're able to, that name kind of really, it helped, you know,
Yeah.
catalyze the concept.
Yeah, I think that is it. You never really have built like a good startup until the name of the company becomes a verb. That's the ultimate goal for any entrepreneur building products. Okay, Don, let's rewind then. So you spent some time in NASA, Jet Propulsion Labs.
Yeah, so started my career at NASA Jet Propulsion Laboratory. So was there for about 11 years, and I think to really zoom out, not to date myself a bit, but I was born a couple weeks before man landed on the moon, and I just think that had a real impactful uh, effect on me. I've always been really interested in space. I wanted to be an astronomer. People wanted to be astronauts, blah, blah, but I think, really studying space and physics, that whole world always really appealed to me. And so, in college, I was in the LA area here, had an opportunity to intern at NASA Jet Propulsion Laboratory. And I became, turned into an employee there, and then was there for 11 years, and it was just this amazing, amazing experience. I had started there in '89, right as I would say kind of the golden age of space exploration. So Voyager 2, this mission that went to Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. I was there right before it went by Neptune, and so like there were a lot of the old timers there that were there, in the 50s and 60s, still around, and just got this amazing exposure to what's legendary now. Like the premier space exploration organization, that got to be my first gig, and I really, it was really quite an experience. So I kind of had two chapters there. Worked on initially with the Deep Space Network. So, all the spacecraft, they send signals back to the Earth. And I was working on something called radio science, doing like really, kind of deep development stuff, Unix drivers, that sort of a thing. But, really some really deep technical work, but really just a neat, just amazing experience. 20-year-old kid, going out to, you know, uh, the desert, in testing our software at, midnight, and till 8
That's
AM,
cool.
just these amazing, amazing experiences I had. And so that, kinda, was first era. And then, I moved into, um the mechanical design engineering space. And this is where kind of some of the nuggets of what became Bluebeam kind of
Mm,
originated, kind of a step wise function. Innovation, it's never linear. It is always a sequence of connections. I'm convinced of that and seen that time and time again. But back in so this is mid '90s, and JPL was going through this transformation of doing one big mission to having to do a whole bunch of spacecraft missions in parallel, just as the economic environment was changing. You couldn't put all your risk in a $10 billion flight mission every 10 years. Let's spread some of the risk. And so there was this whole effort of transforming our infrastructure to, how do you handle that? How do you be able to do parallel spacecraft design, build, and delivery? Sound familiar? In some new ways. And this is in the era of $30,000 hardware
mm,
platforms, just as much for the, a seat of the software. And so, there was some, kind of work around integrated product delivery, integrated part design. and so I got to be involved in that and the data management aspect of that. And so it's kind of fun living that for kind of the latter half of my time at JPL, and kind of prototyping, involved with some of the people prototyping, and then kind of helping with some of the flight projects on how do you just deal with data a little better. Um,
Mhm.
so not to go into too much of a rabbit hole, but yeah, there was, kind of a lot of preliminary work there. Some people left JPL to start their own company, and in the mid '90s, and fast forward a little bit, and they basically, kind of the A team of, I would say, like, the mechanical design team left to start this company, spin out, and they wanted to do spacecraft part design better instead of having to, do blueprints and all this stuff. And so they built a whole process around PDF, and how do you
Mm.
take the model, how do you embed it in a fully dimensioned drawing? You can include, um, all the analysis information, the CNC files that you use to build the part. You kinda have this effectively digital twin of that part. You got the thing you're building, and then you've got a fully dimensioned embedded model of that thing that you're you're delivering. And they built a whole process around PDF for doing that. And so um, we basically, I had left JPL, and the joke of people who know me are tired of me saying this, but I left the premier space agency in the world to go sell dog food online. So I went,
Yeah,
late
yeah, yeah. That's smart.
end of, '99. Yeah, I went to internet.com. E-commerce was taking off. A lot of parallels to today with AI that we can, definitely talk about.
Oh, yeah.
But, world was shifting, at the time, and so kinda did that. But then as, these people started, the company built this process, they're mechanical engineers, and said, "Hey, we wanna commercialize this." So there was a team of people that, I joined back this parent company, and then we basically spun out Bluebeam to commercialize some of this, process for taking high-end designs and then getting them in a, democratized way, being able to, deploy them on a project, and that was PDF. That kind of
Mhm.
became the core technology around which we built, that.
Yeah.
Major construction projects are complex, and construction managers know that every day things don't go as planned. Unfortunately, most don't know what and why until it's too late. The best construction leaders know that the secret to delivering on schedule is for everyone to be planning together, committing to targets, and tracking their performance every day. By combining look aheads, weekly work plans, visual staging diagrams, and daily activity briefings into one multiplayer platform, Aphex is where the world's leading projects are planned and coordinated. Join the largest projects and contractors across Europe, the UK, Asia, Australia, and New Zealand and discover why at aphex.co. In construction, precision matters. Every budget line, every schedule, every document. But too often, project data is scattered across tools and departments, creating risky silos. That's where ArcDesk comes in. ArcDesk is the all in one construction management platform designed to connect your entire project operation, from opportunity through to tender, all the way to handover. With real time dashboards, cost control, scheduling, procurement, and document management in one place, ArcDesk gives you complete visibility and control. Trusted by contractors, subcontractors, and asset owners worldwide, ArcDesk has powered landmark projects from shopping centres to Europe's tallest buildings. If you're ready to reduce risk, protect your margins, and deliver projects with confidence, discover ArcDesk today and visit arcdesk.com. That's ARCH desk.com and see how leading firms are building smarter with ArcDesk.
Okay, so on the story with NASA, people. So you encountered this problem where like only few people could access like the software required to maybe you can correct me after I said this, but like to access the design information required in order to build mechanical parts for rockets or whatever else might exist within the department that you're working on. And so what they did is found a way to take all this design data and effectively democratize it, so many more people could access it, and that was where this design data was then put onto PDF. So then you didn't need like a supercomputer at the time or any particular machine to be able to access it. You just needed like a PDF reader.
Y-
And like that's like sort of laying the hints and the initial seeds for what Bluebeam is today. Did I get that right?
Yeah, yeah, and I think, and I think things were still very much blueprints then, and it didn't over time, of course, it happened, but there was kind of some early work, and the technology, the desktop computers weren't at the level of being able to, just the tools weren't there, but, it's kinda early on work that I think definitely, kinda set the path for the future, and, it's kind of the parallel I always like to draw, like, at the time, and I just so many conversations I'm in today harken back, 25, 30 years ago, being able to share the model data, being able to share the design information in a, you know, way that you can grok. You can get the information and be able to, get the part built, or the part of the project, the building completed, whatever it is you're working on. And the how how you do that, there's many different forms, right? It can be drawings, it can be 2D, it could be 3D, but at the end of the day, just being able to share the information, I think, in a easy way, a low viscosity way, where there's a lot, much friction. I think that's really kind of problems still even today that we're, Bluebeam is still, I think, right at the center of helping to make that better. I
Hmm.
look at, back at, today, IFC, the origins of that came from STEP, PETA STEP, the standard for the transfer of product data back in, manufacturing aerospace days, where, we get the benefit of that in AEC, being able to leverage that even today. And so I think there's so many parallels, and, part of, learning, how we can bring some of those thoughts there forward is definitely something I've been continued to be interested in exploring.
Interesting. Um, okay, so you went from NASA, and then you go to this PDF systems created, then you go to PetSmart. Um, what happened? Did you? I think you mentioned PetSmart study earlier. I didn't catch quite what you said in relation to that. So was there anything like influential that happened during your time at PetSmart, which again sort of like started to perhaps the foundation has been poured during your time at NASA. Now PetSmart is starting to lay the concrete on top, or something like that. And before we get
Yeah.
to Bluebeam.
Well, and I think it's what was happening in the world, right, at the time. Again, 98, 99 timeframe, the internet, right? And of the first commercial viability of it was happening then. And I mean, I'm a big fan of technology history, and even, back in the '80s, right, there was videotex in the UK. I know there was a lot of work going on. There's this vision of, people plug in their, into these boxes, and they can, share information. And I think they're, it's kind of early on, but, it takes, you know, decades for it to really mature to the point where it's consumable. And at that 98, 99 time, there was enough technology. It was accessible enough. You had, in 92, 94, you kinda had Gopher and kind of the first vestiges of, the internet. But, as you get Mosaic and Netscape, you kinda have the back end, you have the front ends, and it's accessible by people that then you can start to really address the, the challenges and opportunity of society, right? So, e-commerce, and that's when it really took off. And I'd finished an
Mm.
MBA at the time, and a buddy was working at, he was a chief technology officer there, and I'll just never forget going and just meeting the people and really learning, like, wow, there is a shift going on here. And I just realized, as much I was set on being a lifer, JPL, and there are a lot of big problems to have to work on, but just seeing this fundamental shift in technology, its impact on society, never forget telling my wife when I went home after I met the people that night, went in, kind of chatted with them. It's like, I cannot not do this. And so I think that really, um, made a move, and I wouldn't, for would never change any bit of that because I think it was an amazing experience, early, fair. I mean, already I've been JPL 11 years, but, you know, early-ish in my career to be able to be at the, upswing of the internet, the e-commerce, world was really, just an amazing experience to see and kinda live through. You can
Mhm,
talk about,
mhm.
you can read about, but to live through it, was just
Yeah.
an amazing experience, and again, I just see so many parallels to where we are, today currently.
So for the e-commerce to AI, it's like the 25-year cycle that we're
Yeah,
in.
it's, definitely, yeah, and it's, you never that internet of, nine initial 1980 crazy concepts to in '99 completely there's a thread through, but it always shows up different. And, the internet of today and how, it's everywhere, right? Of course, on our phones and because of it, we're doing this now, right? And so it just shows up in so many ways you can never ever predict. And yet, it iterates, it evolves, it builds upon, and it's you can't predict where it's going to end up, but seeing like being in seeing the iterations and the evolution, it's kind of it's amazing to experience and, have, be able to impact. And, when you take it to, Bluebeam where, you start out where, a plugin for, the challenge is getting the information into a form that you can share. So problem one, solve getting, a digital paper representation, PDF, get it shared. Then, leveraging internet and cloud technologies that really in 2010 really
Mhm,
was, studio and, how do we start to, it's a team sport, this building thing, right? And so how do you get everybody on that same virtual page and do it in an easy way? And I think leveraging evolution as technology is evolving, I think there was a really natural, next step for Bluebeam where we, started to incorporate those sorts of, technologies into the core product, and it just became a real natural extension for everybody collaborating no matter where you are, whether you're in the same room or
mm,
whether you're, around the world. So,
Okay, yeah, cool. Alright, we'll get to that in a second. Before we do, I was just gonna see there's something that I could bring up now. Um, okay, fine, no, let's go back. So 2002, you're in a garage somewhere, and I don't know how the conversation went, I was not there. Um, but what happened in that garage, which, well, was the birth of Bluebeam?
yeah, well, it's, even though it kinda spun out of rocket science, not rocket science, but, we were, part of, the company, Alliance Space Systems, which has been, kind of acquired, absorbed, but, it's kind of what I was mentioning before was that, the company built spacecraft parts. Basically, every, robotic arm, that's on the surface of Mars was developed by our parent company, and so they wanted a way to, be able to do that in kind of modern ways, and built this process, like I mentioned, around kind of PDF and kind of the portable, document. And so the CEO and kind of the origin the team, the exec team there, um, they had, there was, actually one of our developers still with us. He was actually an intern, at ASI and kinda developed some of the core technology, at the time, and he's been with us, 24 years now. And, some other people, like we, brought in, um, people, I had software experience. I joined, the original CEO joined. He had some, IP, experience, and, we came together with the intent that we were gonna spin out, Bluebeam. So,
Mhm,
and I think rightly so. I think the head of, ASI at the time thought, we build, parts, atoms, not bits, and so it's a whole different game building a commercial software company.
mhm,
And so there was an effort to, had friends and family funding initially, did a a couple of very small rounds of angel funding, and we we basically got this Bluebeam thing going, effectively in July of 2002.
Yeah, and what was maybe you've already said it, but you can maybe reiterate the point or just say yes. But um, what was the original vision of the product? Was it literally bringing like the commodity democratization or accessibility of like design data into a PDF format?
Yeah, I mean, it was. I mean, starting. Yeah, I think with any startup, right? I love two-person startups that want to build the next AEC platform. Good, good luck.
Yeah.
But I think really kind of focusing on the core problems, right? And at the time, and it is how do we get this information in a way that can be consumed by not just that designer, that architecture team, designer in the CAD manufacturing space, architect here. Um, how do you make that accessible? And so we were a button that showed up in some of the CAN applications for the first 3 years of our life, and just how do you make it simple? Again, getting back to kind of that original point we were talking about, the
Mm.
problem is not how to get the PDF. The problem is how do you get the information so the part could be built, the project could be done. And so we hyper focused on making that button, the push button PDF for AutoCAD, the push button PDF for SolidWorks, work
Bluebeam it.
darn well.
Did you
Yeah, that you could
Bluebeam
just
it?
easily do it. And I think there's some core, there's nuances to making that work well. It's like, well, you know, in a there's of course Adobe for doing that, but we tuned it for the technical audience, the paper sizes, all the ANSI standard and ISO standard paper sizes, having those already predefined, having, big issue was having the when you made a PDF, not having it shrink, have to fit in the margins. All these things that impacted the accuracy of the drawing, that there was an industry standard for how you interpret drawings, and the digital didn't align with the way of working, and so we bridge that gap of making it simple. Take that digital world, make it compatible with the way people work in this analog world, and bridge the gap so you keep the focus on getting the projects done. And so yeah, long-winded answer there, but it's that getting and really understanding what the core needs were, um, for that, get a PDF, get the drawing set, get the line colors, the line blending, the all of these things. It takes time to do that, to get it right, to get it dependable, to get it consistent. And that's where we cut our teeth, and it really, I think, started to build a relationship with the industry. It's like, "Oh, yeah, let's, call the Bluebeam guys. They seem to know how to, they can help us with this. We got a problem. These darn drawings aren't coming out right. Like,
Yeah.
this is impacting the project." And, they call, and guess what? We picked up and, started a relationship. And, and I think that to this day, there's people, back in that day that we still interact with. And it's,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah,
think
I
that,
mean,
yeah.
it's funny to hear you like describe the nuance of what goes into taking like technical design data and putting it into a PDF because how you like that's obviously a complex process, but to the user, it's a push of a button, which I think people should like take note of because it just probably it helps to explain why Bluebeam was such a success because the simplicity and ease of use. You've taken a very complex process. For the user, it's a matter of clicking the button, the PDF. I think you made PDF. It had
Push
a
button
push
PDF,
button
they oughta,
PDF. Yeah, there you go.
yeah, title about that long. We got better at
Yeah.
product naming as the years went on, but yeah,
Push button PDF, and voila, they have their end result. And I
yeah,
think, yeah, like based on discussions we have, some of the products we see is that there's too much complexity,
yep.
and so people should learn like yeah, simplicity and you are a living proof of what simplicity within a product can do, and that goes for many other products that are just so straightforward to use that are on the market. So that's good to hear. Did you weren't originally focused on the AEC industry, as far as I understand, right? It was more for aerospace and manufacturing.
Yeah, and initially,
And
that,
how?
but
Yeah, why change?
yeah,
What kind of
you
triggered
know,
the?
well, it's interesting because, the market, the mechanical market, very fragmented then, when you look at, so, hey, let's solve problem one, getting high quality, PDFs out. At the time, if we're gonna start as a plugin because we want it to be simple and be, kind of a natural part of the workflow, there were certain CAD tools that it was very natural to plug into, and I think that kinda led to a path of, oh, manufacturing, aerospace, the nature of it, um, a lot of the industry was build it yourself, very small shops, and then you kinda had the really big, like, Dassault, kinda whole pipelines and such, and it just there was a as we learned about the architecture, space, we had some connections with architects, and when we were first developing this, because it was a plugin for AutoCAD, we, got into architecture firms and really started to learn, wow, there's a real need here, and they don't have the time, the focus to really tweak all this, and I think it really started to resonate. So, as we started to have kind of early versions of our plugin, going down and just sitting in the firms installing, realizing, oh boy, we got to do this better and that, and it just, we started to really learn about the the need there, and it just, I think it really just became a
Mm.
natural focus of, okay, well, I think we can focus on this area, and it seemed to have a lot more, broader potential.
Yeah. Okay. So in that first, like, obviously the value proposition was taking this design data and turning it into a PDF format. Why were people willing to pay for this? And how did you make your first dollar as well?
Yeah, well, and it's funny, that first month, we sold 14 seats of Bluebeam, so, kinda that's when you
Nice.
start, you start, small, but
Yeah.
I think it was, solving an easy to understand need, like it wasn't, again, rocket science, like, hey, you need a quick way of being able to get this information out to a broader set. Do you really want to spend your valuable engineer time figuring out, settings and tweaking? And so it just became a very simple value prop, you know, is $250 a seat, right? Like it, for a button, right? Initially 3 buttons technically, but no, and so I think not making it over complicated, and just, I think the combination of keeping the focus on the job, what needs to be done, not focusing on the technology, it's simple. Just hit the button. Don't worry about the details. I think it just made a very
Yeah.
natural discussion. You didn't have to overthink, that, and I think that's a big part of still to Bluebeam's story today. Like, how do
Mm,
we, you know, build in a way that if we have to explain it a lot, then we're kind of probably doing something
mm,
wrong. Like,
mm,
if that's not the intent. The intent is, it just should feel like a natural, part of you doing your business. The focus isn't the software, the focus is on the job, getting it done. And I just think that permeated early on in Bluebeam's history, and I think it's part of the core DNA. How
mm.
do you, rapidly get out with the customers, learn in situ, get out in the field, get out, learn when, for a long, a lot of the history of Bluebeam tech support reported into, as a CTO, head engineering for, you know, big part of the history of Bluebeam, and it reported into engineering, so, because the way I looked at it, tech support is the front end of, our product, and that's when you really learn what's working and what's not. And I think that tight connection with what we design, what we build, what we deliver, and how it's actually used and adopted, really built this,
Mm.
flywheel of, rapid iteration that then got people to make it a no-brainer for hand and money over.
Yeah, and growth as well. You kind of answered the next question I was going to ask you. So just fast forwarding a little bit, we're still in the sort of 2004, 2005, 2006 period. But fast forward to 2010, I think that you moved on. Are you implemented cloud pivot?
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
So yeah, so first couple of years of I hope we're not dwelling too much on the past, but I always think about as I look towards the future. I think it's always interesting to kind of reflect. But so plug in, and then a few years into the company, people are saying, "Well, this is great. We 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 need to engage in a discussion. Here, I'm gonna send you the design set, and and you want to give me some feedback." And the tools at the time, the big A, Adobe,
mhm.
it wasn't the tools were designed for document markup, not technical document review. And so, we realized, oh, okay, now there's the next part of the conversation. I send to you, now you want to give me feedback, you want to interact. And that really is what prompted us to develop Review, our flagship application for, that, and I think that's what Bluebeam's known for, right? Like for, being able, that take that project set and make it buildable, and, all the stuff around that, the markup, the collaborating, that really, in the 2005 era, that, we first couple of releases, push button PDF for AutoCAD with Review, so the title got longer, didn't get shorter.
Oh
Uh,
no.
but,
What
as
happened to the button?
right, right. Well, the button got, an
Bigger.
application that ran alongside with it, right? And
Okay.
so, how do and again, getting adoption, getting users, getting people to care, these things, this is the hard part of, building a software company and getting adoption. And so I think we introduced, kind of layered in, okay, let's, you know and trust the buttons. Now, oh, you need to bring up the PDF. You want to be able to mark up in not kind of a comic book looking way. You do these kind of crazy clouds, and they look like cartoons out of Sunday morning newspaper. Uh, we design tools like the markups, the markup list, that mini little database of information with every comment, the tool chest, the way you can use your markups over and over again and standardize across the company. All of this was building towards, okay, how do you take that conversation and make it a professional technical interaction? That became kind of the next step of Bluebeam. Take the buttons,
Mhm.
get review going, get the dialogue back and forth. Okay, I can email you, I can, FTP it, and, start to have this interaction. And so go from the one to the many, go from the one to getting the teams able to share and, build that project set. Uh, and then, to 2010, the when you had, kind of the, there, 2008 and kind of the economic downturn and such, uh, the, there was a need, and like the nature of our industry is that you've got a lot of people that need to collaborate, and instead of emailing files back and forth, there's got to be a better way. And so that's where we introduced Studio as that way of being able to get everybody together no matter where you are and be able to collaborate. And so, we've got, examples, and again, AEC is where we're known, but, everything from shipbuilding to, you know, crazy
Mm.
applications of our software over the, people using our software. It's been, any sort of technical build that you need to do. If you're looking at, anything larger than an 8.5 by 11, I think we've really been able to kind of create that name where, it's easy to share that large, project set of information. And so
Mm.
that, that's been kind of the evolution, the plugin to review the desktop, and then building off of that, and then Studio for them being able to, it's that collaboration platform for being able to, share information no matter where you are on the project. And as we all know, most projects have hundreds, thousands of players on the projects.
Hey listeners, I want to take a quick break to remind you about the Bricks and Bytes newsletter. If you're interested in learning about the technology shaping the future of construction, you won't want to miss the valuable insights we share each week. To get this exclusive content delivered straight to your inbox, head over to www.bricks-bytes.com and sign up today. Link is in the show notes. Back to the show.
Mm. Okay. I'm gonna fast forward our conversation slightly, and we'll go straight next into the acquisition from Nemechek. Then we'll go into your reflections on like what lessons you learned through the Bluebeam journey, and then we'll go into the future of Bluebeam and what's happening in right now. So let's do that then. So we got to 2010, and then 2014. Um, you were approached by the giant Nemechek for a reported $100 million acquisition. I found one source that claimed that amount. I don't know if that's truthful or not. You don't have to say otherwise. Why did they buy?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think we were the 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 opportunity, the proof points. I think by then, becoming very well known in the industry, and I think where Nemechek wanted to go, has wanted to go. We are very much moving in that direction of really you Nemechek, named after Professor Nemechek, who very entrepreneurial.
Mm-hmm.
He was at our uh, over 90-year-old gentleman who was
Yeah.
part of our user conference back in October. It was
Oh,
great to
that's
see him
awesome.
there.
Yeah.
But I think there's always been this vision of there's a better way to be able to build, and I think Bluebeam, a big part of it, what I'd kind of characterize is that we roll up our sleeves, and you can talk about the vision and then you can deliver. And I think that's what Nemechek saw in us as we were looking to sell, that there's a vision and then there's an execution, and we execute, we deliver. We can talk about vision, but it's delivering the projects day to day and earning the right to have our customers use us. I think we live that for 10 plus years at that time, and I think it was just a compelling reason to want to make it part of the Nemechek family. So.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. Um, okay. All right, let's go for some reflections then. So I'm gonna like bring up some topics of building businesses, and I want you to give us. Let's stick to one lesson about during the Bluebeam journey, and which taught you about the specific field I'm going to mention. So first off would be building great products.
Hmm.
Anything that comes to mind when you reflect back on Bluebeam's
Yeah.
earliest days up to the acquisition?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I, kind of touched on it earlier. It's at that close connection to the reality of where the industry is, and again, leading without losing. I mean, it's easy to say, and it's easy to have the vision of where the world is going, but we've got to solve projects today, next week, next month, and then 5 years from now. And how do you introduce, with all the change going on, there's a what and a how, and I think the how part of it is always important to consider. And so this is where you know take take the familiar way of working. There's all sorts of risk on projects, right? And say, hey, we're going to stop everything and kind of do it a whole new way. That you can't tolerate that. And I think this is where you know ha- where Bluebeam's had some measure of success with layering in new ways of working in a familiar but new way, that it's small moves that don't seem huge at the moment, but when you look back, you realize, holy moly, we're doing this a different, better way. And that, again, it's going to be different, on the life cycle of an industry where, the problem is you're trying to solve. But I think just keeping a sight towards I think in particular startups, oh, we got this great new way of working, and if only people, we've got the answer. If only people would do it our way, and then we'd have 100 million users, sort of a thing. And the world doesn't work like that. Like, getting users is hard. Getting mind share is hard, and you gotta just fight and grab everyone and make sure that you're solving their problems. And if you do it well, then your customers become your best salespeople. They become your best advocate. And I think that was, a big part of the, Bluebeam story. Hey, just put this button in thing. It makes it easy. And then people tell others on their project. And with Studio in particular, I'm a GC, and then I get all this. I'm going to invite them to a studio session to collect, to give me all the feedback. So then you start to get everybody using this system. It's a little bit of a step, but they're marking up familiar drawings instead of having to, lug themselves into the job site and into the job trailer for the stand up. Now they can do it from their office, and so you balance new with familiar, but incredible convenience. It makes their life better because they're using it. Like, finding the art and science of doing that, I think that's the challenge and the opportunity that all
Mm.
companies have to go through. And did and again, I don't ever want to, you know none of this is 100%, but I feel like, I think there's been definitely some, approaches that over the years. I think it's kind of, to what you spoke earlier, it's kind of made Bluebeam kind of known, because we've just been kind of chipping away at
Mhm,
that
mhm.
year over year, and really, just humbly trying to, build
Yeah,
the project in focus. So
and people probably don't appreciate this is a 24-year journey you said earlier?
yeah, on year 24.
There you
So,
go then. So you've
and
been
I'm
around.
only, 25. So no.
Congratulations. Youngest exit ever. How about wait, I wanted to ask about sales, but you kind of explained it, like great product should sell itself. I know obviously that's a very simplistic view on things, but it makes a big
Yeah.
difference. How about leadership? Like, in fact, let's go to scaling a team, like
Yeah.
hiring as you're going through that growth transition, and then
Yeah.
we'll go into your leadership style, how you steer the boat.
Yeah. I learned early on, like, the companies, they're made of people, right? They're living organisms, and they're unique, and they go through life cycles. They grow, they evolve. That small company, that Bluebeam of 2002 is nowhere near, what it was, what it is today. And yet, like a baby, there's elements of us as adults, that, characteristics when we were first born. It's kind of the same thing. Like, there's a through line, a thread. And growing a company, I think it's messy, and it's and there's layers. And I think perseverance is crucial. Um, Steve Jobs has this quote, most overnight, most companies that were overnight successes took a really long time to build.
Mhm.
And it's so true. And you can talk about it till you're blue in the face, but, I've had the opportunity to experience it with Bluebeam. It's consistency. It's showing up every day. It's taking what you got, working and making it a little better by the end of the day. And, taking early days of Bluebeam, um, we it's we kind of described ourselves of kind of like an island of misfit toys. Like, nobody's perfect, but if you can take the team that you have, you can do amazing things. We have brilliant engineers, couple still with us from day one. I
Mm.
worked one of the guys, we worked at PetSmart together. He's still here. But taking you gotta you gotta play with the cards you have. And I think as we grew the company, I think we were able to to do that, and not use excuses, and not, oh, if only. It doesn't matter. You early in the days of Bluebeam, I mentioned we got very small funding early on. But I think that, to me, that's a feather in our cap because it forced a discipline of execution. It forced us having to pick up that phone when the customer called. It forced us having to be out in the field and learning what's working, what's not working. Because if we didn't get people to write us checks, we weren't getting a paycheck. We weren't existing the next month. And that
Mm, mm,
crucible of the first 3 to 5 years of our existence is just burned into us a DNA that I think is still part of Bluebeam today. And so that, kind of a sorry, long-winded answer, but companies, like, they are organic. They're, you gotta, I think good leaders, we can take what we have and, the team we got, how do we take that and, turn them into a Super Bowl, or, pick your sport. Um, that's the opportunity, and it's different. But at the end of the day, how do getting people to work together, creating an energy, a positive energy, think creating um, goals within the company that get people excited, that get people to more than just coming in for the paycheck, make them want to work. I think those are all kind of parts of the ingredients of the recipe. The cool thing about our industry, is that it's a very uh, physical thing, right? Like, the thing I've always loved about Bluebeam and even JPL days, like, you can see what you're delivering. It's not some middleware marketing optimization engine. It's like we're delivering software to help people do really cool things, build these monuments that our kids and our kids future generations are going to live in
mhm,
and exist in. So I think that is really motivating, that we're a small part of helping to make that happen. And we're a small part of making that happen by making just making those people executing, making their days a little easier. I think that's really kind of what's made kind of built Bluebeam. And that getting the teams rallied around that, and has really been that's the day in, day out job.
Yeah, very cool. Nice. You answered two questions. Two of my points with one answer. So very good. Like it. Okay, let's go because we have maybe 10 or so minutes to go. Tell us about, by the way, the Unbound event that you ran last year. Um, uh, I don't know what you did differently, but it had some different kind of um, coverage. There was a lot more hype around it. It felt like very modern and fresh. So
Hmm.
I guess well done to the events team for organizing that. And you had some interesting people there, like Professor Nemechek that you mentioned. Am I right in saying there was also? I'm only like judging based on my memory, but I think the founder of LinkedIn maybe done a talk there.
No, we had
Was it me?
Steve
Steve
Wozniak.
Steve Wozniak, sorry.
Yeah,
That's right. Yeah,
we
so
had
that's super cool
yeah.
in and of itself. So I'm very excited to maybe what Unbound 2026 looks like.
Yeah,
One. And two, there was a number of announcements, I suppose, that came out from of what Bluebeam is doing now. So some of these being from the notes that I found was supercharging the PDF with AI, obviously acquisition of firmness, and Bluebeam Max. So is there anything within that that you want to like share or say or give
uh,
more details on?
no, no, yeah, absolutely, yeah, I think, of course, AI, we've gotten, quite a while into the conversation, haven't, mentioned
Ah!
too much, but, I think absolutely, Max, so a big part of, what we discussed, of course, supercharging. Again, I have a little bit of a reaction to, yes, AI, the enabler, biggest fan of it. Spent some deep time over the holiday break doing a lot of kind of exploratory vibe coding and really kind of assessing where we are
Mm,
as a tool. It's an amazing, but you know absolutely, like, AI game changing. Mentioned earlier, we are at, in LA, the earth is shaking, earthquake. We are in the middle of a fundamental tectonic shift with technology in the industry, like the internet of, 98, 99, we are living that today,
Yeah, yeah.
and it's exciting, amazing. It, by no means is an overnight success. AI, I mean, Alan Turing, 1942, I mean, we all know that, AI has been around forever, but what's different is it's this combination of all the supporting technologies in the industry that now we can really get this into our customers' hands, that if we're doing it right, they're not having to think about, all the nuance of AI, but, like, let's focus on getting our job done. Let's, again, it's that same story, like, how do we how do we leverage the technology to get the projects done quicker? That's really our North Star. And so with, at Unbound and some of the recent announcements of Firmus, it's not only the what, AI, but the how is just as important. And we're layering in AI where all over, and it's not just one thing. Oh, just turn on AI, right? Like there's different ways of engaging. So you see kind of these extensions to um, our current, like, capabilities, auto align, stitching, this thing where you take the, horizontal kind of roadway projects and automatically kind of bring back the all the sheets into one master file that then you can collaborate on. That's an example of it. MCP, one of the big things that we're building in with the introduction of Max is making review um, AI ready. And that's through this thing, MCP, Model Context Protocol. And
Mhm.
the crucial thing there is, and I think what really speaks to, I think, kind of part of Bluebeam's kind of core technology DNA is it represents interoperability in the AI era. So whereas PDF is kind of has become that 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 Rosetta Stone for getting, being able to share the drawing information in a easy way, MCP, by enabling review, now I can start to have a complete different engagement with review to do things. I can describe, what I want to do with my drawing sets, and analyzing drawings and being able to interact with the project set in a whole new way. And it's really compelling, and we were talking earlier about, like 2D and 3D, and, I think AI, there's kind of a whole other user experience that wha in today's world, maybe it's not any of those. It's if I'm that person out in the field and I need to get an answer. If I can describe that and it just tells me, "Okay, cut this piece of wood, or at this length," the
Yeah.
end of the day, I don't care what else I need. I just need that information at the time I need to make a decision to keep this project flowing moving forward. Like, I think that's the real opportunity of AI, and I think it's gonna change kind of our whole interaction with the project data, the project sets. And so, um, that a little bit of philosophy there with that, but, the short of it, like, we're layering in AI capabilities kind of across the board. And I think where what I was saying earlier, getting we're at that point where now it's feasible. Last couple of years, it's early on, it's still kind of developing, but there's, as we got into, the end of the year, there's a level of maturity, and we're seeing, okay, yeah, this is really starting to have some impact. The Firmus acquisition was a great example of that. And I think
Mhm.
what really appealed to us about that was, again, that how lot of, AI drawing analysis tools out there, but with Firmus, we speak the same language, PDF, markups. And so it's a real natural way of, okay, you've got your plan set. You want to do a match and be able to see the deltas between the drawing sets, or you want to be able to analyze the drawings and get an analysis done. It's it just kind of flows into the natural way of Bluebeam, of people using Bluebeam. And so it was just, again, I keep saying natural, but just a really natural, symbiotic kind of connection. And it's been, really neat to see how as we've been, kind of bringing the teams and efforts together, to see how just it's just so in alignment. It's really really cool to see.
Yeah, very cool. Hey Don, this has been great. Thank you. Yes, it's very interesting. Is there a place that people can go? I guess Bluebeam website initially to start with. Maybe check out some of the highlights from the event last year, but just to see like where they can learn more about like what the future and what you guys are implementing from a technical perspective. Because I'm just conscious we haven't covered too much of it within this interview, and I don't want to leave it just there.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think definitely the website. I mean, we have a strong LinkedIn presence, of course, and I think all the kind of social media. I think we really continue to as all companies, continue to have our major communications that way. But yeah, and I think what's been really exciting with Bluebeam is there's I feel like a renewed energy within the company, even 24 years in,
Hmm.
and it's just really an exciting time, and I think delivering consistently with review, the updates there, our Unbound conference where, to me, that's where, Bluebeam, we really kind of at our best. We bring our customers, the industry together, and we're just, interacting. It was such a neat way to kind of round out 2025. And I think that, is the foundation for hitting the gas pedal and just, going quicker, better, and bigger in kind of whole new era, which has been fun.
Yeah, very cool. I have Casey here doing God's work for us here. She said that we can visit bluebeam.com/bluebeam hyphen max to find out more. Also, next Unbound will be in 2027, and there are some Unbound on the Road series happening in 2026. So the next big one. You're making us wait 2 years? Damn.
Well, you gotta focus on delivering the software and
Yeah, yeah, building great products, right?
yeah.
Cool. All right, Don. One last question, then we'll wrap this up. Do you involve yourself now on like advisory boards, on other people building products? Do you do that? I actually generally don't know. I'm just curious to
Um, yeah, with, there's, in my role at, Bluebeam, I need to, kind of be, focused. I don't will always wanna be, kinda need to keep, kind of not overlapping. So we, Nemechek, we invest in, we have investments, a corporate venture,
hmm
and so, like, I'm involved in, kind of a number of those efforts. Always, I relish, I enjoy, engaging with, startup founders, and even if it's not an official, capacity, always happy and willing to engage and talk about you know the 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 reality of operating companies in the industry. At least from my perspective, I don't by any means have all the answers. I've got a lot of lost hair over trying to work in the industry, but yeah, so I think officially, right, I'm not, in alignment with our investments. I tend to be involved, but not just kind of in general these days.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, fair enough. Cool. Okay then. Don, thank you so much. It's been interesting. I feel like this definitely. I don't feel like I say this to a lot of people, but I genuinely mean it. We could have probably done this for like 3 hours, but hey, here we are. Thanks for joining, and yeah, all thanks to Tanya and the story I started with at the bar in Boston. We're here. I'll see you again in Boston this year in November
Yeah,
at the same event.
yeah,
If not, maybe at one of the Unbound series on the road, Unbound on
absolutely.
the Road series.
Yeah, yeah, that'd be great.
All right, Don. Thank you.
All right, thank you.